I am Delta Sigma, part of DJ World Beats, Music Explosion. Join us today for rBeatz sessions on the rBeatz radio network, along with host Terry Hudson, showcasing the Charlotte Blues Society, with special guest Bonnie Spalding, president of the Charlotte Blues Society. Join Bonnie as she shares with us the rich history of the blues, as we together keep blues alive, not only in Charlotte, but around the world.
Hello, welcome to rBeatz Sessions here on rBeatz.com. I am Terry Hudson. I'm your host. I'm an author, speaker, connector, and I got to tell my crew, I love that intro. It just made me feel like I was down on the Delta or somewhere at the crossroads about to sell my soul so I could learn to play guitar. And that's the setup for who I have as a guest today. I have Bonnie Spalding, who is the president of the Charlotte Blues Society, and I've been working with them for a while, and I've judged their International Blues Challenge for quite a few years, and I just love what they're doing, and I just want you to welcome to the show today. I want to welcome you, Bonnie. Welcome aboard. How are you?
I'm great this morning. Thank you for having me. I've been a little bit nervous about it, but here we are.
Oh, and it's all nervous. You're just here with me. It's just like we're in a coffee shop and we're talking.
A little brighter.
Yeah.
But.
And you're responsible for an organization right now that has such a great history in Charlotte. It's been around, about 30 years?
We are in our 32nd year.
32nd year.
Yeah.
So in that, I remember, I'll let you, I guess they would have told you probably how it was formed, but it was just such a need for blues musicians to be known in Charlotte. And how did it get started?
So it was formed in 1993 by some musicians and the owner of the Double Door Inn, Nick.
World famous Double Door.
That's right.
A lot of people are sad to see that go.
And I think one of the reasons that the Double Door is so famous is because of the blues scene and the Blues Society. But it was there before. We just celebrated the 50 years, or would have been 50 years back in December of the Double Door. So, but anyway, blues music in Charlotte, a lot of musicians were not getting recognition, and then artists that were coming into town didn't really, no one knew them.
Right, they'd be famous in other places.
Right, and so, in order to get people to come out to shows, you need to, and this, of course, before things like the rBeatz and
the internet.
Yeah, well, not necessarily before the internet, but yeah, before it was a mainstay, everyday thing, and so the charter was formed, and there was 52 charter members.
Yeah, that's a lot for the start of something.
Yes,
you must have advertised well to get those people out there.
I think there was a grassroots effort, obviously, by not only the club owner but the musicians. Remember Springfest?
Mm-hmm.
Long-term Charlotteans will remember the Springfest. But anyway, so getting everyone together to form that and come up with a way to have routine meetings. Blues Mondays was typically what it was, and a rotation of house musicians, if you will, then with lots of special guests coming through locally and regional artists to really have that cadence,
Right.
And get people so they knew, hey, if I go on Monday, I'm going to hear blues. So some of those folks are still around. Obviously, it was a number of years ago, but they're still, some still making music, some still enjoying music, and a lot of people are coming out. We still have charter members that come to see us on a regular basis. So
we still have charter members coming.
Yeah,
That's
it's
very
exciting.
Cool. And these artists, that were involved even back then, they're the shoulders, that a lot of people are standing on now. They did the heavy lifting to, create the scene. And I loved being involved in the challenge, which we'll talk about towards the end of the program. I just love that event. And it was my introduction, to the Charlotte Blues Society. And the reason I loved it so much, it was like a foundation of what I saw and everything else. It was just really great live music. It was such an ambiance. And I'll go into that in a little bit here too. But what is the mission, basically, of the Charlotte Blues Society?
Well, in the shortest answer is keeping the blues alive in the Charlotte region. A lot of younger music listeners they don't know the history of blues music. They don't know that the music they're listening to, be it hip hop or jazz, whatever, is based on the American roots music tradition. And so we would do a lot, or we try to do a lot with that history as well and helping people understand. So you were talking about Crossroads in Memphis, and a lot of people,
That's their picture.
relate, Memphis with blues music, B.B. King, and all the great Chitlin Circuit folks that came through there up and down the Mississippi River. But Charlotte has a long music tradition, and some of it country, some of it folk, some of it jazz, blues. So we're committed to keeping the blues alive through education, opportunities for local events, sponsorships. We're affiliate members of the Blues Foundation, and they have a number of programs. One's called Blues in the School, where we actually take blues artists and go into generally public schools, but it doesn't have to be.
That was one of the questions I was going to have is because you were talking about education, do you have involvement with the public schools? Are you in there?
Well, we'd like to do more. Really, I think
they need more.
COVID hit us pretty hard as far as the cadence and getting, people out and about. But, so finding, the schools want programs, but we want to make sure that we compensate folks for their time if they're coming to help us with that. And most blues musicians are readily willing and able to present a program on blues and blues history to students. But they generally want to compensate their band.
Yeah.
So we had a program this last year at Piedmont Middle School, and we reached about 400 eighth graders.
Wow.
Yeah, so we did, and that was actually the social studies.
Well, how did that program work? What was involved in that?
We connected with the social studies director. Anyway, and so she's a teacher, but she also has the other teachers in the thing, and they're studying blues music as part of the Great Depression era of American history. And so it fit right in because they actually do a blues project, and they have to write a blues song, and they have to make an album cover and come up with some other names that tie into the Great Depression and the New Deal. And so we were able to set up in the library in the media center there, and brought in Big Ron Hunter, who's recently passed, unfortunately. He was from Winston-Salem. And he played with all the greats and had a long history of music and in North Carolina, but also as a traveling artist. And then Donald Caesar, who's out of South Carolina. And so we just did a 4 45-minute sessions with the students. They played music. They were able to ask questions. They were able to play some, the spoons and some rudimentary instruments if they wanted to. A lot of people were, shy about doing that, but a couple kids were really excited about it.
I feel it has a confidence builder. I'm such a big fan of things like this. I've had a few guests on the show from different areas, different disciplines as far as the arts, but different organizations that have worked with children and that future generation, and those things that are done, like when you're talking about playing the spoons or getting them involved there, and also having them write the song. You never know what that sparks. I mean, every biography I've read, there's something like that sparked somebody's interest in something and led them on a certain path. That could lead them into poetry. It could lead them into blues. It could lead them in another form of music. And the blues, just the history of, you're talking about the Depression and hard times, and it was almost like a cry out. But because of that, the way it was structured, they basically invented the 12-bar method. They invented blue notes and call and response, like Ray Charles, what I say, and these things they've affected music even today. I mean, you look at, I was a big fan of the hair metal days. I was a singer during that time, and so many of the bands were so blues influenced. Some of them even more than others, like Whitesnake. I mean, that's a blues band that just added a rock element to it, and even though their lyrics are so blues based and how they're done, and even affected things like hip hop. The whole when you're getting the audience and you're yelling hey and they're yelling back at you, it's a call and response. That comes from blues. I see it in gospel. I worked with Southern gospel. I see the influences in that. I've seen it in so many things, and it all started there. It's even how jazz grew. Just the blue note area alone. You took away something, the way something was played or something was saying, and it made it more emotive, and it added a whole different dimension, and then that affected everything you see now. And when you're talking about the younger people, they grow up and they listen to music, and there are studies of how music has come to a point where it becomes more and more and more the same, no matter what genre it is. It becomes more and more and more the same. And then people get used to listening to it, and they are hearing a lot of the same thing. But then somebody steps in that has something a little bit different, and it's because they pulled from the past, and they've juxtapositioned it with something that's currently happening, and then they stand out like an Adele or an Amy Winehouse or a John Mayer or whoever it is, and they rise pretty fast because they're so different.
Yeah, and really, I think we can give Elvis Presley a nod because
Absolutely.
He was able to take blues music and present it in a face that America would accept at the time.
Yeah.
And there is so much of the history has to do with the Deep South, segregation, and really based in slavery and the call and response from the field. And a way to communicate with homemade instruments, things that people could do to entertain themselves.
And nothing stopped them. You're talking about homemade instruments, like
the banjo was originally the blues instrument, and most of those were homemade. And you see people making them out of cigar boxes and gas cans and any number of really creative ways to make an instrument.
Not Jack Black. I actually made that mistake. I called Jack White's office one time and asked for Jack Black. Horrible moment in my stuff back there. But Jack White from the White Stripes, he has made so many different instruments, homemade guitars, studying the history of stuff like that. He's come up with some amazing sounds. Doing that kind of thing.
Oh, absolutely. So, you just the imagination. And so I think, exposing anybody, but children to this history and letting them know that, you don't have to take formal lessons. You just have to want to get up and move and, share your story. And it blues is not just sad music, it makes me happy. That's why I'm here, but it also, there's just a way to express how you're feeling.
Right.
And there were so many different types of blues music, anything from country to blues rock, Piedmont blues. We're in the Piedmont. Where do you think that came from? You know? So there's just, the depth of music, then it got taken during the Great Migration, it got taken to, the upper Midwest. And then, you had the British invasion, if you will, when, blues really exploded then when Europe took it over, right?
Right.
And they're like, oh, yeah, we like it. And really just expose the world to blues and blues music and blues musicians.
I see that happening some in Asia right now. I've been seeing videos lately of roots and blues where bands, they're running everything from bluegrass to roots to blues in Asian bands now. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So the worldwide reach for sure.
Right.
And it didn't necessarily start at the crossroads in Mississippi, but
Unless you watch movies, right?
I've been there. It's a dirt road. Anyway, but yeah, that just bringing that history alive and letting people experience it, and a lot of times you don't even think about, but a lot of children have never been to a live music event,
right?
So why not bring it to them? And that's just one way to expose groups. We do open jams too, and
You're still doing those.
We'd like to do a lot more. We'd like to do a lot more.
It's great that you're still doing them.
But also making those open to children.
Okay.
And letting them get up on stage and make a little music and have fun with it and get over that kind of stage fright and how close you have to get to the microphone. Playing, and it's just really, really fun to see the variety. And one thing like the internet has done is when you're bored and you're watching YouTube videos or whatever the feed is, a lot of times you will hear things that you wouldn't normally hear, right?
Right.
And a lot of guitar lessons on the internet and things like that, and that's where we're seeing a lot of younger people get exposure to music they wouldn't normally hear in their world.
Right, and that is one thing with my children, alone. They turned me on to so many different styles of music, even things from my era that I didn't even know about. They would find, and their range runs all the way back, to 20s or 30s, and then rolls all the way up, to what's modern day, because they were the first that understood that access, with whatever it was, your listening devices, when they went from CD players to, iPods in those days, and now, of course, everything's on your phone with streaming, and they were, in YouTube videos, like you said, they were able to access so much, and it's still using those modern methods to put even more of those older things in front of them. I've worked in music and I've worked in wrestling, and in wrestling, I watched this interview with this guy named The Undertaker, and he was giving advice to the younger guys. And Undertaker almost sounds like a blues name, right? But he was giving advice to anybody trying to break into wrestling. He was saying, what you have to do is you can't just study the current. You have to study the past. And then you have to take your job serious, but not take yourself so serious. And you have to look at what would make you different. And I listened to that and I thought, that's great advice no matter what field you're in. You could be in acting, or you could be a musician or a painter or whatever it is. Such a big key of that was studying the past. And when you study the past, there's so many things that you can come up with to add to your music, now, to add to what you're doing. I think it's true of all genres, but especially the younger generations that are starting out, because they're the whole next wave, of music. And when you look, you were talking about the Beatles or the Stones or whoever it was that came over with the British invasion, even the Doors, during that time, those people would study those artists from back then. You're talking about Elvis, or Clapton, they were looking at Rosetta Thorpe and all the ones from back then. And then they took that and they made their own sound with it, and it opened the door for even those people to come through, because all of a sudden it opened it to a wider audience. And those blues artists that were back then that weren't getting the airplay because they were such a small, segment as far as the radio. It opened the radio to look for more of those. I saw that as a good path, but I see it now that mindsets are so different than they were back then, that you don't have to fight all the things that you had to fight back then. It would be even an easier way to take that music of the past, mixing it with certain things that are happening today, and create even more amazing things. There's so many opportunities for blues artists with that. And of course, you have a few yourself. Yeah, we were talking about earlier the festivals that are happening, this open, jam. That's a great place to get on stage and learn and be able to collaborate and network. How's the networking been with that?
Well, I think the Charlotte Open Mic network continues to grow, especially as we see, we had a lot of venue changes, right? We've had a lot of old buildings been torn down, but we're seeing more and more come back up. And getting the blues-centric jams going, there's a few in town, and we try to make some of our monthly events have jams. You meet people that you wouldn't normally meet, and the people feel like they can come out and in a very supportive way play, exercise their feelings and get out there and play. And a lot of times it's not original music, although we would certainly, love to have that at jams, but that because you're being supported by other artists that are playing the traditional standard songs.
Right. But that could grow into original music because they have the bass there.
Right. And so getting the feel for it, right? We have a lot of guitarists show up. We'd love to have more vocalists because that's, I think, the part where people feel the shyest is if they're not comfortable being vocalists of any genre. It's good. We've got a new house band called the Charlotte Blues Orchestra.
Oh.
CBSO. And they're mostly board members that are and volunteers from our membership that want to play on a regular basis and just have fun with it and support various jammers that come up that are by themselves. Sometimes we have whole bands that come up and jam. Any number of ways to do it. But we're always looking for additional vocalists that want to come and sing. Just because that's one area for a lot of open mics that are, I guess, an area where people are least comfortable presenting themselves.
Well, we're going to take a break, but before we do, I want to let them know that when we come back, we're going to discuss more about the events. We're going to discuss more about opportunities, and we're going to get into some details on the International Blues Challenge, which I'm such a big fan of. Obviously, that's why I show up and lend. I guess I don't know if you call it a judging talent, but
we appreciate you.
Sit there and judge, and I'm always amazed at that. So we'll talk more about that. But we'll be right back after this message from our sponsors and our friends. See you in a few moments.
Home. It's hard to put into words what home means. Here in Charlotte, home is passion. It's grit and resilience. It's what defines us, and it's who we are. Representing something way bigger than ourselves. We find home in a game. A game from the North and adopted by the South. And for the last 70 years, we've found home in this Coliseum.
Time in franchise history, the Charlotte Checkers are Calder Cup champions.
No matter the moment, no matter the price, the time is now to take care of home.
Welcome to this week's DJ World Beats Artist Showcase. I am Delta Sigma, part of the DJ World Beats independent, national and international trending music explosion, exclusively on the rBeatz radio streaming and media network app on all your favorite listening devices. Thank you for joining me today. Let's celebrate the trending artist showcase on the rBeatz radio streams. Firstly, we have on our hip-hop, world and reggae stream, We Global Radio. 1. Hallie, Because I Love You. 2. Morgan and Byron Mesher, Wheels Up. On our rock country and hairband stream, USA Heroes Radio, we have 1. Fantastic Negrito, Undefeated Eyes featuring Sting. 2. Keziah Jones, Melissa. Lastly, on our pop mix and variety stream we have 1. Sia and Chromeo, I Forgive You, Remix. 2. Liar Grace, Falling Out of Love. 3. Kamayu, Holy Spirit. Thank you for sharing. And don't forget to catch me, Delta Sigma, on rbeatz.com, the app, YouTube, and all your fave listening devices next week, as we bring you the latest bangers that hit different on rbeatz.com.
Welcome back to rBeatz Sessions. I am Terry Hudson, and I'm here in the studio today at rbeatz.com with Bonnie Spalding, who is the president of the Charlotte Blues Society, and we've been talking about the mission and the happenings and education of the Charlotte Blues Society, also the history of what's gone on with the blues and how it's impacted our culture. Now we're going to talk about some more opportunities that blues artists have. Of course, we talked about festivals. We talked about the open mic jam. They have all these just new venues that are perfect for it. You know, we had the small clubs for a while. Of course, you had the bars, which, you know, the blues are famous for the association with the bars. Now we have breweries, you know, that pop up, and some of these breweries have great stages. I mean, they actually have concert stages built in with the sound equipment, you know, hanging from the ceiling and that kind of thing. And it's just opened up, I think, even more opportunities. Don't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. We have made our home at Heist Brewery and Barrel Arts on Woodward, which is near Camp North End, another great place to hear music, and in their event room. And they've been a wonderful, wonderful host for us, and that has worked out really well because they have an excellent sound engineer and they have a beautiful stage. It's easy to load in and out. And I think the folks that show up feel comfortable there. The artists love it. They have great beer. We're able to let under 21 in because it is an event room and not a bar.
So that's changed it now that they have event rooms associated with it. That's
that
kind of thing for all ages shows.
Yeah, well, for us,
Okay.
you know, because if you're going to a nightclub, a lot of times they have they can't allow under 21. But we like that opportunity.
And you have these places like the Amp, even, you know. And
beautiful
like
new venue. Got an opportunity to go there in the spring. I think we're seeing a resurgence because again, Charlotte lost a lot of great venues, and now we're like the Double Door and Tremont, and the list goes on. And so we're starting people not only build when they build, they put that in mind because that's what you want people to come in for more than just a moment or a meal. You want them to come and stay and bring their family and the dogs and all of that. So I think it's worked out. It's worked out well, and Charlotte is growing so fast.
It's not just as a city, but as a music community. You know, we have music conferences there now. We have 2 of them, and we have. I would put these venues up against some of the best cities in the country, and with our airport, becoming what it's become, it's been easier for artists to get in and out of here. But even the up and coming places, like you were talking about Camp North End, and then you have, of course, Noda, legendary Noda. You have the uptown area. You even have the outskirts. Your places like Lake Norman up in Cornelius. They're a growing music scene now down towards Gastonia and even Rock Hill. These places have widened the opportunities as well. And the thing now is, now that Charlotte's becoming this music city and is becoming known for music, of course you were here before all that became cool, and so you have expanded opportunity there now. But with the way the internet has worked to make it even as important, who's not even in the room. You have the people that are in the room, but if you film right or you showcase that right, it turns into reels or whatever, there are a lot more people that are not in that room that can view this. And I've seen the value of that a lot. And then with, you have to depend on record companies for so much of this, but now there's so much in the artist's hands that these blues artists can actually grow. The Spotify platforms, Apple Music, whatever it is, and of course social media. It's got to be playing a great part in what they're doing.
All of those things are critical, but nothing replaces going to hear live music.
Yeah, but that promotes going to hear the live music.
Right,
Yes.
so we try to keep our prices very, very low while still compensating the artists for their valuable time.
Well, you're one of the few doing that, so I want to...
Well, we are a nonprofit,
Yeah.
and it is, all volunteer, so we keep our costs low, but it is about, we do spend a lot of time fundraising. And Charlotte, I think the Arts and Science Council are doing a great job. We have a lot of partnerships with the independent radio stations that do blues programming. That is important. The public things like you said, Tosco Music.
What a great
and
guy.
John Tosco, great organization. They promote us. We try to promote them. And that we see that happening across the board, right? So we're the folk society. Everybody's trying to help each other succeed in their niche, which so often crossover.
And crossover is key. I mean, that's how you grow new audiences. You were talking about the British invasion again. Come back, but even that came back in a way when U2 they did their Rattle and Hum film, and you had that great scene with B.B. King when Love Comes to Town, and that ended up becoming one of the hits from that album, as well, and bringing BB back in front of all this new generation of people at that time.
Yes, and when you get an opportunity to hear or meet an artist that had that's from that generation, and there's still a few left. Unfortunately, we're losing that generation. Yeah. But Mac Arnold out of South Carolina, he played with Muddy Waters. We're seeing a lot of folks like that had an opportunity to tour with the greats, people that got it started, and learn from them. And we're, the Stevie Ray Vaughan, and we see a lot of
icons,
a lot of younger guitarists learning, hearing his licks and going, I want to do that. Jimi Hendrix, and where did all that come from? Right, it all came from blues, and so I think. The venues, if you like to go to live venues, tell them you want blues music.
Yeah.
Because they'll reach out. They'll try to bring it in. We have a lot of artists coming through. We have a lot of regional artists.
Oh, I see some people from your contest that I see playing great places.
Yeah.
And we talk about Jake Haldenvang. People saw him on The Voice. His blind audition has 1 million views, online. But he was involved there. I mean, that was where he got noticed, was
as a youth,
right?
Yeah. So we have the opportunity to have a youth representation at the International Blues Challenge, and we sent a band last year, the Southern Groove Machine.
So good, yeah.
And what a good experience, right? They got workshops and got to play on stage at Beale Street and get feedback and meet people and do all that important networking. And that, networking is so important in the music business. There's only so much you can do electronically. You got to put palm to palm occasionally. And
Well, it even, the guests I get for the show, I get some nationally known guests from the music industry. I get that because of Circle. Your opportunities, I say it over and over, your opportunities are as big as your circle. And if you're a musician, you need to be at the events networking, whether it's the music conferences. Again, I can say the International Blues Challenge, which we'll go ahead and talk about that event since you have that coming up. Is that okay?
please,
Okay.
it's Sunday.
Yeah, and I will be there. So if anybody wants to come out and say hello, and Bonnie will be there. Will you be there? At
I
this
will
one?
be
Okay.
there.
I think you were out of town for the last one, if I remember.
It was.
Yeah, but and by the way, this is the first time I believe we met. So great to meet you, even though we talked on the phone and exchanged emails so often. But in this, again, that's where I met Tosco, and of course, I believe it's Matt was there. He'll be there again this year from Intrepid Artist.
Will.
Oh, it's Will that's going
Yeah.
to be there. Okay. And of course, I want to give a shout out to Michelle, the office manager for Intrepid. She's done so many things for me. She's such a great soul. But
And they have their 30th anniversary party coming up
Really?
in early November, and that's a 3-day extravaganza of their artist.
Oh, okay.
And it's not strictly a festival. They have it's going to be at Amos's South End and
Okay.
also at Neighborhood Theater, and then a smaller one at Middle Sea Jazz. But if you want to hear some great artists, that's an opportunity that doesn't require travel. Coming right up. Yeah, they've been wonderful. So the International Blues Challenge is, if you're an affiliate of the Blues Foundation, you can have a judged competition, and then you take the winners and you sponsor them to go to Memphis to compete on the International Blues stage.
And it's 3 categories, right?
Yes. So it's solo/duo, so 1 or 2 piece, any 3 or more up bands. Then we have the youth, which is a showcase. It can be judged, but it's when they go to Memphis, they're not judged. It's more of a learning experience. And then they also have a self-produced CD category. And we haven't done that in a couple of years, but
What would Robin Rogers won?
Robin Rogers, yes, was our darling, what a
She's
wonderful,
legend
beautiful
in this-
voice.
yeah.
Yes, she, international blues artist. Unfortunately, she passed away, but she was there. We have sent every year we try to send someone, right? During COVID, that was, everything got topsy-turvy, but we're back at it. So we have this competition starts at 4 p.m. on Sunday at the Neighborhood Theater in Noda. We'll have 6 solo duo artists, and they'll play for 20 minutes, and then we'll rotate quickly out, and then they'll get the judges, like yourself. We'll put that together, and then we come in with 4 bands. So we have 4 bands competing. So a little bit bigger than last
They're
year.
always smoking. I mean, the talent is incredible at this event. Yeah. And just for a fan to be able to come, they're not going to find anything like this where they see this many high-quality bands and artists and, solos and duos in one place.
Yeah, it's so exciting. It's so much fun. It's a free event, and it is open. You can bring youngsters if they want to get that experience. It is. We'll be taking donations, of course, because we're a nonprofit, and that's what we do. But we'll announce a winner, and then the winner will play the opening act for our December holiday bash, and that'll be with Jamie McLean Band. And so we usually meet the first Sunday of the month, unless it falls like on a holiday or something like that, which we might move it. So they'll present for us, and then they'll go to Memphis in early January. And the way that's structured is they do this. There's same set twice on Thursday and Friday. No, Wednesday and Thursday. And then they get promoted to, if they get promoted to the semifinals, that's on Friday. And then the finals are on Saturday. Last year, our solo artist, Melissa McKinney out of Asheville, went to the finals.
I remember her.
And she's got a magnificent voice and great songwriting.
Powerhouse, yeah.
Yeah. Very proud of her. And so the networking there. The winners get some pretty amazing promotional. They go on the blues cruises. They play at the Bender. They get recording time, and really a great way. And these are not all brand new bands, right? A lot of them are seasoned artists that are get promoted. And it's so interesting and fun. Just it's immersive experience in Memphis.
Oh yeah, I see all age groups.
Yeah.
In these contests, and of course you had, I think they were Delta Moon that actually won the International Blues Challenge. What was that, back in 2002 maybe or something? It's been a while, but they did
2003.
win. 2003. And then of course Jake Haldenbank, the gentleman we talked about that was on The Voice, he was your solo winner one year, and he either placed second or third in the International Blues Challenge.
Yeah, I mean, it's just phenomenal, the opportunities that opens up. So, and they meet they meet agents, they meet producers, they meet other artists. They see what everybody else is doing. It's an international competition, so you get a lot of people coming in. They do workshops, anyway. So, by promoting and having that contest here in Charlotte, we can send someone so that they, to help them advance their career, and get, Charlotte
on the map.
Yeah, it's like we're here, we're big, we're let's make some music.
Right, and great music, and you'll see as this goes on, you see even more, original artists come from this area because of situations like you've created, here, and having an International Blues Challenge, and then having them as part of these events that you have, like you're talking about, the Christmas event as well. And how do they find out how to be involved?
To actually be in the competition?
Not be in the competition. Or just be in the competition. Yeah, or maybe even future competitions, but it will all, I'll assume, be at your website.
Right. So we have a website. We have, we're on Instagram and Facebook, YouTube as well. So you can just find us on charlottebluessociety.org or at CLT Blues Society. We have we have a newsletter that goes to email. So for folks who you have to open your email, a dying thing as well. But anyway, so we try to get the word out. We have a calendar where we
That's what I was asked. Do you have an events calendar?
Yes, we do. So as we hear of blues and roots music being, presented in the Charlotte area, we put that on our calendar so people can go there and look to see what's coming up. We try to get our listings on things like Music Everywhere Charlotte and other Charlotte on the Cheap, for example, which is, great resources that just tell you what's happening in this wonderful community.
Yeah, it might be great for meetup groups as well. I'm not sure if you're in contact with them yet, or maybe even Alignable could have an event. It's something you're doing that would be great.
Yeah. So many things to do. So as a volunteer organization, we're always looking for ways to do that and folks to help us get the word out. So actually taking the time to make the listings and postings. And we have a great group of volunteers. I mean, I can't say enough. But it is, people have their lives, they're busy, they're working. But we're getting, we've got a core group of people that show up over and over again and do whatever we ask them to do, whether it's staffing an event or making a social media post or helping us with printing or, finding merchandise or just any number of things. So we'll have a lot of volunteers on Sunday at the event. Our judges, for example, or like yourself, are local, and they're volunteering their time. So we count on that.
And they risk their health. I don't know if you knew this, but the first one I ever judged, I think, was uptown, and I had never really had barbecue, even though I'm from the South. And they set me beside this barbecue truck, and I had to smell that the entire time that I was sitting there trying to judge. And for 2 weeks, I got addicted to barbecue. I was eating almost like every day until my doctor said, you got to calm that down. But
well, that's all I say. Barbecue, right? in the South, barbecue is a noun.
Yeah.
You're not barbecuing, that's a verb.
Yeah.
You're eating barbecue.
It was great.
Yeah, and those kind of festivals, wouldn't it be great if we were able to have? I mean, the festival scene is definitely coming back in Charlotte, but I think we need more of that, and we're seeing that change every year. It seems like last year was what the Loving Life Festival.
Yeah.
And
there's going to be more things to come. It's growing, and it's growing fast, and it's due to the efforts of all these people, including yourself, and the time that they put in, and your volunteers. It's making the city an incredible place. It's why it's the base for rBeatz, because they just believe so much in independent artists, believe in artists in general, but they have a strong focus on independent artists and getting that word out. And just thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thank you for helping us as well. Yeah, I mean, I think, if you're interested in hearing music in your community, most of the towns and communities have a stage. They'll have programming all summer. Go out and support that.
Absolutely.
Tell your leaders what kind of music you want to hear. But be open to learning new things and hearing artists that you've never heard of before.
Yeah.
I think that's a great way to do it. Because, again, we're seeing, there's a lot of very experienced artists that are traveling all the time, but then we're also seeing the new generation coming up. And they've got the energy. They're out there. They're on the road, 200 days a year or more. And the other societies in North Carolina, they have great events. The independent venues, they're bringing in all kind of music, and a lot of blues.
Well, thank you so much, Bonnie, for being on today. I look very forward to Sunday, as you know, and it'll be great to be there. And a shout out to all those bands ahead of time, and best wishes. And
wish we could send them all.
Yeah, but and there are some deserving ones for sure. It's an incredible event. But you are incredible, and you're doing incredible work. Charlotte Blues Society has always done great things, and I'm glad to know you guys. And again, I appreciate it very much for you coming on and sharing and making this community better.
All right. Well, thanks for having us, rBeatz. And Terry, appreciate you. And y'all come out and see us on Sunday, and save the dates in your calendar for the other Sundays, and we'll have a good time, and it's quite a party.
Absolutely. And you've been listening to rBeatz Sessions here on rBeatz.com. And this is the place that you can find independent music. It's the place for musicians to come and find advice on how to grow what they're doing. And we just appreciate you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. This is Terry Hudson. Much love.